When Queer premiered at the Venice Film Festival in September 2024, it was already controversial, but not for the reasons you might expect. Directed by Luca Guadagnino, with a screenplay by Challenger's writer Justin Kuritzkes, Queer is an adaptation of William S. Burroughs' cult novella of the same name. Set in 1950s Mexico City and Ecuador, it follows William Lee, played by Daniel Craig, an American expatriate who becomes infatuated with a younger man, Allerton, played by Starkey. This isn't the first time Craig has portrayed a queer character, but for many viewers unfamiliar with his stage career or smaller roles, seeing James Bond enter emotionally raw territory with explicit intimacy was apparently too much. At Venice, some male audience members reportedly audibly scoffed or groaned during love scenes, but if you're surprised by Queer, you might have missed the title and Craig's entire resume before Casino Royale. Guadagnino has described Queer as his most personal film. He first read the book at 17 and dreamed of adapting it ever since. He and Kuritzkes began developing the screenplay while were still working on Challenges. The novella was originally unfinished, so they consulted Burroughs' scholar Oliver Harris to help craft an ending that stayed true to the author's intent. They eventually secured the rights from James Grauholtz, Burroughs' literary executor, and began shaping a story that blurred genre, romantic drama, existential character study, and even a bit of surreal thriller towards the end. Daniel Craig joined quickly after reading the script, thanks to a phone call with Guadagnino and the efforts of his agent, Brian Lord. Guadagnino already had an eye on Starkey, and he was cast based on an audition tape from another project. After watching it with Craig, the Bond star turned to Luca and said, "That's the guy," after nearly 300 people had auditioned. Joining them were a striking ensemble, Lesley Manville, Jason Schwartzman, and Henry Zaga. All delivered memorable performances, but Manville and Schwartzman in particular disappear into their roles. They are nearly unrecognizable, especially Schwartzman, who plays Joe Goodere, likely based on Allen Ginsberg. Filming would begin in April 2023 at Rome's Sonata Studios, with additional scenes shot in Quito, Ecuador. Guadagnino and his team used extensive miniatures to recreate streets of Mexico City, the jungle, and even an aeroplane takeoff sequence. The attention to detail is stunning, and a reel of these models is available on YouTube. Definitely worth a look at if you're into practical effects. The costumes were designed by Lowe's creative director Jonathan Anderson, making his second collaboration with Guadagnino after Challenges. The film's haunting score was composed by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, the third collaboration with Guadagnino following Bones and All and Challenges. One standout track is Vaster Than Empires, co-written by Brazilian composer Cantinto Veloso, and features lyrics from Burroughs' final diary entry. A second version, with Alan Sparhawk and B.J. Burton, was also later released. But Queer's use of Nirvana is perhaps even more memorable. The film features Come As You Are, Marigold, and a moving cover of All Apologies by Sinead O'Connor. These weren't just nostalgic picks. Kurt Cobain was a fan of Burroughs and even collaborated with him in 1993. Guadagnino said their friendship inspired the soundtrack. Other musical appearances include jazz greats Benny Goodman, Charlie Parker, and the Italian alt-rockers Verdina. Queer premiered in competition at the 81st Venice Film Festival and was also featured at New York Film Festival. But it faced setbacks. The film was banned in Turkey, where it was scheduled to open a film festival hosted by Mumbai, which had to cancel the event. It received a limited United States release on November 27 through A24 before a wider rollout in December, including the United Kingdom and Italy. Critics were generally positive, and the National Board of Review named it one of the top 10 films of the year. Daniel Craig would win Best Actor from the board and was nominated for a Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, and SAG Award. At its heart, Queer is a story of unfulfilled desire. Daniel Craig's William Lee is obsessed with Allerton, embarking on a doomed journey to bind them together emotionally. That quest ends symbolically and literally in the jungle, an underworld of sorts where Allerton vanishes. One scene hints at a real-life tragedy, a vision of Lee shooting Allerton with a glass balanced on his head, echoing Burroughs' accidental killing of his own wife, Joan Volomir, in 1951 during a drunken William Tell game. The death shapes Burroughs' literary path and also essential to Naked Lunch, which he says with the same fictional protagonist, William Lee. So what's my take? Well, Daniel Craig delivers a phenomenal performance here, unrecognizable, unsettling, and deeply vulnerable. It's a bold attempt to shatter the Bond persona and replace it with something jagged, raw, and real. Both he and Starkey are excellent, with Starkey subtly holding the emotional thread even as the film spirals outward. But halfway through, Queer starts to unravel. What begins as a tight, moody character study becomes an abstract, voyeuristic, and at times indulgent piece. It's beautiful, but not always coherent. And while Guadagnino aims for emotional devastation, the final act may lose some viewers entirely. If Call Me By Your Name and Challenges were controlled emotional dramas, Queer is Guadagnino unchanged, for better or for worse. Still, there's something brave about it. It's messy, sensual, daring, and painfully human, just like Burroughs himself. Whether you love it or not, Queer is unlike anything else released in 2024. It was part tribute, part fever dream, and part reckoning with complicated literary figures. But above all, it's proof that cinema still has the power to provoke and yet also haunt. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want more deep dives like this. And let me know in the comments, was Daniel Craig robbed of an Oscar nomination? Queer is cinema that doesn't really ask for permission, yet in many ways loses its impact by being too self-indulgent and too abstract. Queer gets a 6 out of 10.